not aware of who Richard is, Richard is an entrepreneur, I would say, an award-winning sales and marketing consultant, and somebody who I have been involved with for probably the last 9 months or so, I would say, in the capacity of I've been utilising Richard's coaching services through Lynton lasers to some fantastic and got some fantastic results with that. And I've also been privy to some of your Facebook groups and WhatsApp groups where I can see you engaging with your customers and hearing about their amazing and fantastic results as well. So I know firsthand how you operate, and it doesn't matter, guys, if you are a one-man band or if you are a multi-million-pound business. What is unique, I think, about Richard in the way that he coaches people is it's about the people behind the brand. Okay, so at Lynton, as the sales and marketing director, I feel regularly overwhelmed with stuff. Okay, and Richard is extremely good at cutting through the waffle, the noise, and helping you to really home in on who is your customer, what are you selling, how are you selling it to them, and how to kind of get the best out of yourself and your results as well. So I'm delighted that you're taking the time to run through a renew and rebuild session with us today, Richard. And thanks for joining us.
Wow, thank you very much. I'm just like, is there another Richard?
It just rolled off.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. That's it's great to be here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And also, thank you very much for that fantastic introduction. It's been great working with you and Lynton, and I think the benefits, I suppose, of your approach to things, and also the way that we've been working together is being borne out now. So it's awesome to be able to share, I think, also some of the insights that I've shared with you to your audience as well. So just seen one person pop up with Maria Brennan Thorns. Hello, Maria. How are you doing? Right. Shall I get started?
Please do. Yeah.
Okay. So hi guys. As Hayley said, I'm just going to walk through a renew and rebuild session with you. So I've been running these with the Aesthetic Entrepreneurs community for the last couple of weeks in response to their need, I think the sort of market's need for a little bit of help and support in managing where we currently are. So I think what we need to appreciate is there are kind of 3 phases to this whole quarantine lockdown perspective from a commercial point of view. And the first phase is we're kind of through, which was the initial lockdown. Everybody's businesses had to close. There was a lot of panic, a lot of uncertainty. How are we going to pay the bills? And I think we're kind of through that. Everybody now knows whether they're furloughed or not. There's access to business support, etc., etc. So we're kind of through all of that. And now we're into sort of phase 2, which is this kind of weird, slightly odd normal, where people are sort of in a bit of a rhythm. And what that presents a couple of things is, one is opportunity, because in all of these things there's always opportunity. That's what being an entrepreneur is about, right? Is just looking at the market, looking at what's going on, and finding the opportunity in all of that. And my role in all of this is to help you guys see and then also maximize on that. So what I'm going to talk you through is the kind of renew phase is almost how to work with the current situation. And then the rebuild is how to use what we're learning at the moment and some insights that I've got in how the market's going to evolve to drive the business in the next sort of 6 to 8, probably actually the next kind of 18 months. If you've got any questions for me, please feel free to ask them. What I'll do is I'll sort of do the sort of slideshow, if you like, and then I'll stop periodically to answer the questions. If you use the chat to ask the questions, that's kind of easier for me because it's a bit less clunky than the Zoom Q&A, if that's cool. Cool. All right, let me share the screen and we're off and running. Okay. Can you see my slides?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay. So as I said, this is the renew and rebuild sesh. What I'm going to do is to say, the agenda is, first thing I'm going to do is a bit of an introduction to myself, if you don't know who I am and my background, and a little bit about aesthetic entrepreneurs, and then walk through. I think there's going to be some changes that are affecting the market. I've been trying to find a different word for unprecedented, but I can't, because unprecedented by its definition explains exactly what's going on. It is unprecedented, but there are opportunities that are available in this time. Then look at how you can structure the business to create the growth once this is over. And then after that, we're going to need to maintain the momentum. So I've got some models and things like that we can look at for that. And then the final thing is, I'd just like to introduce you to the Launchpad program, which is one of the propositions that we've got, which I think is very useful at this time. And I'll go into that in a little bit of detail, if that's okay. Hopefully it will be about an hour, but if we run over a little bit, I hope that's okay with everybody. So first thing, welcome, thank you very much. Now, I think there's a couple of things that we need to take into account, and one of them is, I guess, the mindset and approach of people at this moment in time. Now, I love this slide, right? There are kind of two ways that we can come out of quarantine. And one is approaching it from coming from a place of kind of, relaxation. It's okay. I think everyone's having to take some sort of enforced breather. And for a lot of us, that's actually quite good, because it's the first time you've been able to take a kind of a break, slow down. It's been enforced, and I think some of us are enjoying that. But the other thing you have to bear in mind is that others are using this as an opportunity to completely reinvent the business and also themselves. This is where my clients are being pushed towards, is, we've had a bit of time where we can take the breather, but now it's looking at how we can improve our business structures, how we can improve our product offering, how we can improve our understanding of our clients, and even things like, building the size of our clients, our mailing list, engaging with them when everybody's essentially sat at home and now a little bit bored and buying things off Amazon. We've got an opportunity here. So what I want you to do is think about this from perspective of, if you are that Thor, the tubby Thor, there's an opportunity now. We've still got probably 4 to 6 weeks where you can actually really kind of tighten up the processes and be prepared to come out of this lockdown period absolutely flying. And that's what I want to kind of show you about today. So who am I? Well, as Hayes said, I'm a sales and marketing consultant, I guess, by trade. I'm a coach by nature. One of the things I specialize in doing is essentially helping build businesses by inspiring the people behind them. I've been in the aesthetics market for about 15 years. I started off with hyaluronic acid fillers, and since then I think I've sold pretty much everything from a single, via skincare right the way through to capital equipment, and worked with every size business from small independent practices through to some of the largest businesses in Europe. And been involved in deals from a couple of £100 box of filler through to £3.5 million worth of breast implants. So I've seen the market from all of its different sides, and I'm kind of privileged in that I've got a sort of a 20,000 foot view of it all. So some of the insights that I have, I can share with you today. I'm also a bit of a film fan. I like comic books, rugby, and I'm still into actually collecting toys, believe it or not. Moving swiftly on. I've written a couple of books. So You're Through Changing Faces. This is helping people still now. I launched it in 2016. If you've read it, brilliant, leave me a review. If you want a copy of it, please let me know. I will happily send you a digital copy of it. If you want me to pop a printed copy in the post, let me know, and I'm happy to share that with you. I've also just finished my second book called Changing Minds, which is a much more of a sort of autobiographical perspective on business. That should be launching hopefully middle of April. Won a couple of awards. My Face, My Body Award in 2016 for product innovation on iConsult. And in 2018, I created the Aesthetic Entrepreneurs. Now, as Hayley said, that the Aesthetic Entrepreneurs was designed around a market need, and I think a change a way to change the communication and the way that people were being trained how to sell, essentially. There was lots of positioning around product and service, and we needed to alter the message to be talking much more about people's experiences, talking about their cultures, vision and values. Our vision is to build, strong and beautiful aesthetic businesses by inspiring the people behind them. As Hayley said, I work very, very closely with the individual, because I believe that by empowering you to think, act and behave like an entrepreneur, because I believe you all are entrepreneurs, it opens up a completely different way of your business. It shuts down all the fear and overwhelm, gets you starting to think much more openly, and you communicate in a very, very different way and build a very, very different business. Our values are around progression. So I'm always looking for future, innovative ways of helping to solve problems, albeit technology or just theory and process, about being powerful. So I like to teach people to fish and, help you create your own strategies that you employ in your own businesses, and principles. There's no right way to do the wrong thing. There are certain business models that I won't work with. There are certain people I won't work with. And I think everybody has the right to know who they want to bring into their life. And, through having these sorts of values makes it very, very easy to decide who we work with and what we do. So we help you discover yourself. And then as a result, we then help you to kind of discover your business. Now, 6 steps, and this kind of leads on to what we're going to be talking about in terms of the opportunities that are presenting themselves at the moment, is we have 6 steps in the way that we approach it. So the first step is around goal. Everything for me starts with your goal. And sometimes I think people's goals are a little bit weak, especially when they're financially driven. So if I sort of say, well, what is it you want to achieve this year? And someone turns around and says, well, I want a profit of 250,000 or whatever. That's not the goal. That's an outcome. The goal is, well, why do you want to achieve that profit? What are you going to do with the money? And sometimes it's around financial independence. Sometimes it's around, just a complete change of lifestyle. That's the goal. Because once you hit that, then it becomes quite a kind of burning desire. You become emotionally attached to it. And it's the emotion that drives the discipline and the consistency. If you don't believe the goal and you're not really into it, you're not going to put the work in. So then we got the plan, which is creating the processes, because plans help to manage overwhelm. If you're currently thinking, there's lots going on and you're not really knowing which way to turn, literally just map it out and write a plan. It calms everything down nice and easy. And that's actually what we were doing during phase 1 with clients, is helping them to plan. The third part is around culture. This is a step that gets overlooked massively. And this is some of the great work that I've been doing with Hayley, is looking at the culture and getting to articulate vision and values. People buy your vision and values. They have an actual impact on your business worth. If you can effectively demonstrate that you have a solid value proposition, and articulate it through your marketing, your business increases in value. But also this helps you build that entrepreneurial mindset and also a lot more confidence. Your values attract people. So people like people. You ever go to a party and you walk in, you don't know anyone. By the end of the party, you're kind of best friends with a few people, because your culture, if you like, has attracted them. And those are your client base. So I don't tend to think of it as sort of, selling to clients. It's just working with a community who know, like, and trust you. And then they provide you with 5, which is an opportunity to solve a problem for them. And that's essentially it. It's not sales, it's solving problems. And they give the opportunity to solve that problem. And then the next step is, once you've solved the problem, there's an exchange of value. And the value exchange that we need is revenue, it's currency, okay, it's money. So that's how it works. So 6 different steps you work through, is all the way through from your from your goals to your plan to your culture, the community, opportunity, and then revenue, and all of those things combined to create growth. Now, the great thing is, unfortunately, there's no shortcuts. It's just focus, consistency, and discipline. That's it. So that's how we work. So that leads on to, if you change the way that you think about things, that leads on to the opportunities. So also I'm going to talk to you about the opportunities that are currently kind of presenting themselves. And I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind just indulging me, let me see in the chat, is first question I'm going to ask you is, how many of you are actually furloughed? So if you could just kind of just write in the chat, just yes, if you are furloughed, and no, if you're not furloughed, that would be awesome, because what that do is just give me a bit of an idea on what kind of situation you're in, and then I can be a little bit more specific with the advice I'm about to give you. Okay, so there's a fair, from what I'm seeing, so dip test, the majority of you are not furloughed. Okay, cool. So what that means is a couple of things. So not furloughed means you can keep on working, you can continually marketing. And if you are, then that also gives you the opportunity. You can still work on your business, but what you'll have to do is probably outsource some of the things that I'm about to tell you. So the first thing is, this is a huge opportunity for you to step forward. So, so I'm just going to put a gap in the chat so I can see the difference between the previous questions and the next questions. So the next question I'm going to ask you is, who here is currently booking clients in for treatments or procedures post-lockdown? And not a waiting list, actually physically putting them in the diary. Can you give me a yes if you are, and a no if you're not booking them in? Okay, so seeing what's coming through, a bit of a mix. Majority no. Okay, so the first opportunity is yes. I think you should. Even if those of you who are doing this, brilliant, that's fantastic. Keep going. Those of you who are not, you need to, because booking them in gives two things. One is, if you're booking them in and taking a booking fee, it gives you revenue. So if you're not furloughed, you're going to need to get some cash through the till. And what you've got at the moment are appointments that are highest value you're going to get between now and Christmas. I mean, Hayley posted in the chat yesterday about the hairdresser. The demand is there, the desire is there, so it's perfectly appropriate to book people in. Because I share, sort of my background. I share a bit of insight. Is I used to be in the Navy, and when we were at sea, some of the deployments we would do were like up to 7 months. Longest way I did was 9-month deployment, and I would always be thinking about what was going to happen when I got home. So I'd get my dad to send me motorcycle magazines, and I'd go through these magazines, and I'd be pricing up the leathers I was going to wear, the boots I was going to buy, the helmet design I'd have done. Most of the time I didn't do any of it, but what it did is it connected me with a sense of normality and gave me something to look forward to. And there are parallels at the moment with this lockdown and being at sea, is people are still having something to look forward to, except they've got Amazon that they can use, and they're spending money. Don't for a minute believe that people are not spending money at the moment. The Amazon sales figures will share with that, will tell you that. So it will generate some income for you. The second thing it will do is it will keep you in contact with your client base. Now, the thing we've got to remember with social media is social commentary. And I just did a screenshot. Maybe some of you have seen this, the meme where, this is what happens when the beauty salon's open. And, people, running towards you. All of this sort of stuff is social commentary, and it tells you how your market's thinking. So I look at this and sort of seeing memes and seeing people talking about this sort of thing. It tells you that they are signaling that they are ready to buy, that they're ready to take that step and ready to listen to what you're going to say. So learn to read the signals. If your clients or your potential clients or your community, if you like, are starting to talk about rebooking, oh God, I can't wait to get back in, I can't wait to do this, you know that we're into that phase already. So a really obvious question at the moment is, well, when do I book them in for? Pick a date in the future and just stick with it. You can move them. If you have to move them, you have to move them. But it will give you some revenue. It starts you communicating with your client base. And the other thing is also, that you know that you've got a business to go back to, because once you've booked them in, you can then accurately forecast how much revenue you're going to have coming into your business the moment you open up. That should give you a real amount of confidence, and that will help manage your anxiety, because then when we come into the next phase of all of this, the kind of rebuild, you're in a position where you can start thinking about things. Okay, so I'm going to go through this and I'm going to take a pause and address some of the questions that are coming through. So the next thing is you need to look at is the market and what's happening with the aesthetics market. So we've got then and now. Then is about a month ago. 5 weeks ago, everything was different. And this is how businesses generally worked, right? Is you made your money face to face, and your conversations were generally one to one. It was reactive. The market's always been pretty reactive. And when I say aesthetics, it broadens out into lots of different kind of service sectors. But it was reactive. People would walk in, kind of tell you what they wanted to have, and you would provide the sort of solutions for that treatment. Things were very, very treatment focused. So what I mean by that is you talked an awful lot about products and services. So it got quite noisy in terms of everybody was talking about the same kind of thing. It's all about treatments and products. Some of the focus was on vanity metrics for social media. So it was how many likes and followers have I got? And influencers were kind of key in a sense. The pouty selfie was king. And we throw that on a month later and everything's changed. One-to-one and one-to-many. You can't do your treatments. So if you're generating revenue or income, it has to be done online. And the communication now is definitely one-to-many. So that brings into social messaging, it brings into different types of media. So we have to change the way we're approaching it. You've got to be proactive. People aren't walking through the door now. It's out there. You've got to be out there and talking and proactively approaching clients. And maybe some of you, that's a little bit of a change in your mindset, and there may be some uncomfortable questions and some stepping outside your comfort zone and all of that. But we'll come on to that in a little while. Experience focused rather treatment focused. So what I mean by that is people is talking more about you, what you do, and how that impacts the people that you work with. Treatments, you can't really do them at the moment. You can demo them, I guess. You can probably, talk about them. But really, at the moment, this is an opportunity to talk about your culture, your vision, your values, your philosophy, really share some really, really high value stories. Engagement. So some of you who may have been in the Aesthetic Entrepreneurs group will have seen that I actually I cut the size of the group down by 28%. I took a big step and I removed close to 350 people from the group, because what I wanted was a lean group who were focused and sort of working towards the same goal, rather than a lot of lurkers who weren't really that engaged. It's engagement, it trumps volume. I'd rather have 100 people who are engaged and listening than 1,000 people just to kind of make it look like we're more successful than we are. Change your success matrix. It's not about numbers, it's about how much engagement you've got. And then the final thing I want you to think about is this is the time for leaders. This is the time for people to step up and show who they are. And the influencers have disappeared as far as I can see, because the pouty selfie is now taken in the front room. They can't get to the yachts and the cars and all that sort of stuff. Everybody's in the same boat. And what we need now are people to step up and lead communities. And you can lead online communities. Hayley and Lynton have stepped up and are leading their community. We're doing it with Aesthetic Entrepreneurs. And what I want you to do is do that with your own community, because for those of you, who are medics, on every Thursday at 8 o'clock, they're being applauded. So you've got this opportunity to take that as being role models and step up. And there's a way you can do it. So if you think about how things are going to go from how they were to how they are now, just to sort of summarize it, if you've got a business that has an online focus and is programmed and looking at one-to-many communication, then driving it down, you're proactive. You're talking about experience. You're talking about vision, values. You're talking about your culture. Obviously, yes, talking a bit about treatments and products, but mainly focused about what you do and how you do it for people. You focus on engagement and you focus on leadership. you're going to be in a much, much stronger place than you were beforehand. So that's my kind of, the helicopter view of it. I'm just going to stop the screen share and just pick up some of the questions, if that's okay. Let's just sort of do 5 minutes on the questions, and then I'll come back into the slides. So some have had to move, open from June onwards, had to move them twice already. Kerry, you made a good point about the admin load of that. You, depending on, your business structure, that's something maybe to delegate. I wouldn't say don't do this, is maybe throw it a little bit further ahead, but perhaps find someone that you can delegate the rebooking to, so it doesn't put so much load onto you. Great point about cancelling due to work, holidays, etc. These are things that we can't foresee, but what you do know is that you've got a client who's booked in. And the risk of not doing it is that there's someone else out there who is, thinking about this, and they're booking them in instead. So, we want to lock the business down. Can you tell me point 4 on the 4-point plan? Point 4 was culture, community. Community on the point plan. Is anyone doing virtual consultations? I think there's probably quite a few people who are doing virtual consultations. It's something that booked into my clients, absolutely. I get them to do that as well. Again, from Kerry, it's not about the work involved, it's about mucking them down. Look, I'm here, I'm just giving you advice. How you take that is entirely up to you. This is what's working for some clients. Maybe it's not appropriate for you to do all of that. It's what I'm saying to you is, at the core of it, is maintain that connection with your customers. And if you need to book them in, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay too. But the point I want you to take away is how you do it. And if it's specifically booking them in, that works, fantastic. If for you, that's not something that does work, maybe, putting them into an email shot, maybe doing a webinar series to keep them connected is the way forward.
Can I just add a point?
Yeah, sure.
So for me, I've moved to a new area within the last couple of years. Okay, I'm going to talk about my hair now, right? I feel like it's a necessity to get these roots sorted the minute we get out of lockdown. Now, because I don't have extreme loyalty with a particular hairdresser, like I've been to a guy a few times, he's offered me the opportunity to book my slot in June, and I am delighted by that, and I've got my slot booked. If that hadn't happened, then I can tell you now that the moment the lockdown lifts and I know that hairdressers are open, I'm not going to be loyal to him. I'm going to go wherever is open. Okay, so there's an element here of, if you're confident that your clients are going to stick with you and rebook with you, then that's great. You probably don't need to book them in. But if you're not in such a fortunate situation where you've got a well-established business with a big client base, there's a little bit of a fight on your hands now when we come out of lockdown, that you're going to see your competitors offering very potentially low prices, those that are not running their business well, those that are going to start discounting, so the comfort zone it's going to be tougher. Okay, it's going to be tougher for sure. People won't be as perhaps loyal as they have been. And so having that locked in appointment, I feel, means that as long as that stays in place, when the hairdressers do open, I won't be on the phone immediately trying to find the closest one. I'll wait until I can take that appointment. So that's just my perspective on things from a consumer at this time. If I were desperate to get my filler, I'd probably be doing the same thing, or my underarm hair removed, or my facial hair. They're the clients, aren't they? They're going to want a treatment the minute that we come out, if they've got excess facial hair growth. So let's not lose them at this time. Let's try and I think book them in.
Yeah, I mean, you could also maybe do a split strategy. So just thinking about how you can do that, and for diary management, is the clients who are your top clients, if you like, you can always give them the opportunity to book in and then have some sort of voucher system for others. There's ways of doing that. Because Maria's sort of given a point is, do we have any few sentences for those who are not used to charging for consultations? I think I look at it as a sort of a booking fee to get you, for people, that aspect of it. And some of the sort of language that's working quite well is getting on the phone, speaking to people, but then also just then go, look, there's a lot of interest around, people booking in once lockdown's open. I want to make sure that you get your slot, so that's why I'm taking a booking now. We're throwing it forward for the end of June. Just want to make sure that you've got the opportunity to have the treatment. It's just really passive. It's a pull strategy, not push. People don't want to book in, they won't. Some really good points in all of that. And I think as Hayley said, you're going to have to book them in at some point. It's either now or when they open. And I think if the phone's ringing red hot, you're going to drop people and you're going to miss people. So.
Should we address the question of when we should book them in then? I mean, should it be June? Is that reasonable? What does the group think? Should it be July? If you're really worried about...
Let's take a vote, okay? So just go for it. When do you think? June, July? You guys, we'll go to the hive mind and you tell us, wow, September is the first one out. Mid-June, June, 1st of July, August, June, mid-June, end of June. So yeah, it's at the moment it's complete speculation, isn't it? None of us really know when. Catherine, it's a good point. When clients feel comfortable, when you're getting those signals from your clients on social media, is a great place to look at and see how people are feeling. That's where the signals can come from. Boris looks like he'll give us some idea at 5 today. Okay, awesome. Well, so maybe June, July. So if we say maybe sort of 6 to 8 weeks, I think is possibly when we can start booking them in for. But again, you can always shift it a little bit one way or the other. Okay, right. So we're going to move on and change kind of pace a little bit, and I wanted to talk to you a bit about the future and how we can manage some of these things. Now, what I'm seeing at the moment is a lot of noise online, and it's kind of like the whole world has just discovered the internet for the first time again. And in my sort of history, I've been involved in, and I call it kind of digital media, let's call it that, for quite a few years. Since I was in the Navy, joined when I was 17, I left when I was 24. And I went straight into uni then and studied what would be called a creative technologies degree, 4-year degree. And when I left, I got involved in sort of startups, and I was involved in the whole sort of like .com boom and bust, which was a fantastic learning experience. But I've been involved in essentially selling media and digital media for quite a long time. And I can share this with you, is that the internet is not a new thing. It has been around for quite a while. And if you look at the 3 kind of major strategies that people are talking about at the moment, it's online selling, video consultations, and live demos. And you've been able to do those for quite a while. So boo.com is one of the there's a really interesting book actually about Boo that talks about the rise of e-commerce. And Boo are kind of often talked about as being a company that got it wrong. I don't think they did. They were just right product. The technology wasn't up for it. They were trying to do video and all sorts of really interactive stuff on dial-up internet. It didn't work. A company who looked at Boo and looked how they're doing it and actually evolved on that was Amazon. So the .com boom actually drove Amazon. So yeah, it did work. But you've been able to kind of buy things online really since kind of like 1998. Doing online consultations. So Skype was launched in 2003, acquired by Microsoft, and immediately became not as good as it was. And things like Zoom as well have been around for quite a while. And live demos, you've been able to do those really. I think Facebook Live has been around since 2016. And so we've had the ability to do these things, but what's not been there is the focus. And all of a sudden what's happened is now we've been brought into sharp refrain the importance of having an online strategy, an online plan, and digital marketing. So the way that you do business has literally just changed. So something I want you to get into your head and start thinking about as you change and you move forward is you are now 60% practitioners and 40% media producers. Now, if you're looking at that, and that might be driving fear into your heart and thinking, bloody hell, where did you get those statistics from? Like all statistics, I made them up, completely fabricated. But what I do know is that ratio is probably better than what you're currently doing. So the majority of the market is sort of 95-5. Some are really good, don't get me wrong. Some are really, really good and got well-balanced online profile and practitioners, but it's about mindset. So you've got to start thinking slightly differently about how you approach your business. And I don't make the rules. I'm really, really sorry, but online is, the online communication, if you don't have that as a sort of in your DNA, then I'm afraid you're going to have to start finding that. And this is some insights into how you can do it. So the first thing that tends to happen is people get sort of a bit hung up on, the media tools. So, social media, et cetera, et cetera. I tend to think of things quite simply. As Hayley said, I like to cut through a lot of the noise and just get to the kind of heart of it all. And because my career in media started way before social media, I've never really thought of it as social. For me, it's media. And the purpose of media is to transfer messages. It's communication from one human being to another. What changes is the way that's done. So you can communicate a message through the phone, you can communicate a message or email, you can in a newspaper. There's so many different ways. Just obviously the way that we do things predominantly now is through digital. And there are 3 parts to it. And you do is just, jot this down. And if you want these slides, by the way, I can make them available for you. It's not a problem. 3 parts to a media proposition. And the first part is strategy, plan. You have to know what you want to say, who you're going to say it to, and then what you want them to do. If you don't have those kind of things, and then you're kind of shooting in the dark a little bit, because it's important to know, what's the point of all of this? Why am I talking about these messages? And to say at AE, one of the things we do look at first, that is goal and then plan. So you have to have a media strategy. What is it you want to say? Who are you going to say it to, and what do you want them to do? And then once you have the strategy and you understand what it is you want them to say, then you can go into the actual production of the message. So is it video? Is it audio? Is it a blog? Or is it interactive? Those are the kind of the 4 types of content that I look at. Is video. Everything for me starts with video. Then audio. So podcasting is really, really growing. I think podcasting is incredible way of gaining engagement with your client base. Blogs and written, and then the last one's interactive. So what kind of content are you going to produce? And then the third step, it's about distribution. So it's how are you getting that message out? Now, what tends to happen is people smash all of those together and don't think of it in a kind of those 3 sort of steps. And this is from, this strategy, this process is like from day one in my degree. Is we have to have a plan. We need to know what it is, what medium we're going to create it on, and then how are we going to distribute it. And obviously the distribution side of things is social media, et cetera, et cetera. So think about things in those 3 clear steps, and it suddenly gets a little bit easier. Now, it would be awesome if we could just literally create content that everyone loves, right? By the way, if you're not creating memes, this is another awesome way of getting your message across, memes. It would be great. But there is one thing that really, I think, stops everyone from creating content and good quality content, and it's fear. Now, one thing I need you to do from here on is I need you to stop hiding. This is if you go back to what I was saying about being proactive and taking those steps forward, if you're hiding, you're already sort of behind. Think about, the ripped Thor, he's not hiding. The other Thor is hiding behind beer, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want you to do is we're going to start the process of you not hiding. And I want you to take a selfie. Right now, while we're sat here, where you are, take a selfie, and I want you to post it on a social media channel of your choice. You can post it in the Lynton group if you're not feeling that confident. If you're seasoned pro at social media, I want you to post it out there. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to change the hashtag to we use Lynton. Let's make Lynton. Look at this, on the fly slide editing. This is real time. So take the selfie and then post it and just say it, really enjoying the webinar, et cetera, tag me, tag Hayley, post it. There are, how many people have we got watching? We've got 41 people. So it should be 41 selfies. winging their way out very, very soon. And it's important. And you still might be thinking, well, it's just a little bit of fun. Yeah, it is. But it's also important because if you can't do this, then there's a future for you which is going to be slightly uncomfortable. So take the selfie, post it, and everything's going to be fine. So I'm going to do mine later, but I absolutely will be doing it. So take the selfie. Those are the hashtags. Take a screenshot of that if you want to. But get the selfie out there because I want you to. It's time to stop hiding. The future doesn't let you. Okay. So next step. Kerry says she's lying under the Dermalux. That's going to be an amazing selfie. There's no excuses. You can still do a selfie. Just get the phone out and take a photograph of you in the Dermalux. That's cracking content. Anyway, so why do I know this and why do I believe this to be true? Well, like I said, I've been involved in digital media for a long time, and the past is a definite predictor of the future. So a little bit of a history lesson, and I'm going to prove to you that the way that this approach will work for you if you can just be brave enough to take the step forward and start sharing more of yourself and being proactive, etc., etc. So if any of you are around the same sort of age as me, 46, you'll probably remember the internet as it was like this, which was incredible. Dial up. It was very much search engine driven. How many? Yeah, is this familiar to people? Do you remember this? And yeah, it was the very early stages of it. Now, one of the first kind of major uses of it that I felt around sort of social media, it was kind of like MySpace, but also Friends Reunited. And if you remember Friends Reunited, so it was basically a way of connecting you with old sort of school friends. And it was really, really successful. There was a business kind of network as well called Academy at the same sort of time. So it was this early stage of social communication. And I was, jumped on Friends Reunited. This was a very, very valuable business at one point in time. And you think about how things work like that. It's very, very basic, but it was quite effective at getting people to speak to each other. And then the web evolved a little bit, and in animation, graphics, images dropped in. This was one of the first websites I ever designed, way back in kind of 2001. I did it for a surf shop in Bristol. There's lots of tech in that. If you did rollovers, you heard audio. That was a video that played. There's flash animation in there. It was all good stuff. But it also made me realise that actually, one, I was not particularly good at designing websites, and the second thing is that I didn't really enjoy it. So at that point, I took a step out from basically in the production side of things, and I got into the sort of the strategy aspect of it. And it gave me a career. Now, at this time as well was the emergence of basically online dating. And interestingly, this is actually how I met my wife. I was doing a project for a company called Chemistry, and it was a very early online dating site that had there was early interaction, so there were quizzes. There was no video and no images because they knew that would kill the site dead. The bandwidth, the internet just wasn't ready for it. And it drove everybody to a physical event. And it was called Chemistry, and this is where I met Amy. It's where I met my wife. So there you go. You can proof it worked, I guess. But again, the point I'm making is that at every stage in development of the internet and digital tech, it's designed to communicate and hit one person to speak to another, not to sell, but to communicate. And then point 3, the latest evolution, and I think there's another one coming very, very soon with sort of bots and AI, Web 4. But Web 3 is mobile and it's app-driven. Now, the combination of the iPhone and Facebook in 2007 changed the way that we communicate online forever. And it's pushed things towards social engagement through online communities. And this is the most effective way for me of growing a business online, is being brave, being bold, putting yourself out there and driving people towards a community. You're part of one now. So if you're listening to this is possibly because you picked it up from the Lynton Facebook group. So you're now part of it. You're part of a community. And you can do exactly the same thing with your business as well, is create that community, because then you're demonstrating leadership. You're also creating a market and taking those steps forward. And it's a lot easier to sell to people who already know, like, and trust you than, hitting a broader perspective. I mean, you do both. Business grows by getting new business, but also increasing the value of your existing business. And this kind of technology is the way forward. So a combination of Facebook Lives, videos, and groups is really going to be driving things. And this is the way you should be thinking about how you move forward. But if you're not creating the content, then all of this is irrelevant. That's why I made you do the selfie. So I'm going to just quickly stop before I just jump in. Any other questions? Any other points? Is Hayley anything that you want to? Observations? Has anybody had any, light bulb moments?
Seen a few selfies already, so that's good.
Awesome.
I think Tej mentioned you sort of hit the nail on the head in terms of the hiding bit.
Yeah.
I know.
Sorry.
Yeah, it's just uncomfortable, isn't it? I think it's still uncomfortable for an awful lot of people to be filming themselves, talking about what they do, to be self-promoting. A lot of people are not particularly comfortable in that zone.
Yeah, I absolutely get that, and it's probably worth sort of talking about that for a minute, because it actually leads on to the next part of the talk. Is I get that. I get that a lot of people are introverted, and I work with them quite. All I can do is create extroverted introverts. We can't change people's personalities or for a while, but if you just understand and believe that people out there are interested in what you have to say. They don't know the answers to the questions, so you're telling them and you're providing that insight. That's all it is. And the fear around putting it out on social media, I guess, is a fear of judgment and being looked at as being an idiot. Not many people think like that, and if they do, there's a great thing. You can block them. It's amazing. Just remove them from your life. I've blocked more people in the last 6 months than I have done in the previous 10 years. So, you've got these sorts of things that you can do, and yeah, self-confidence, all these sorts of things. But for me, it's about repetition. And the first Facebook Live I did was horrible. I was sideways. I did it in the hot tub. Looking back on it, it's like, how creepy could that have been? It's the worst thing ever. But I've kept it because it's a great reference of me how not to do it. And the more you do it, you just become more comfortable with it. So it's putting yourself out there, and after you've done a couple of 100 Facebook Lives, they don't bother you anymore. Mm-hmm. How do you take a selfie and post it? Oh, okay, so we can pick up with that one afterwards. So if we work on our self-confidence, we'd be much better at telling things about our businesses. Absolutely. That leads me right on to the next part of this. So what I'm going to do now is just give you some real thoughts on what you can do and what sort of things you can be talking about. Now, I have here what we call a value matrix, and everything goes. And what I look at this is in terms of how much value you add to something, what it becomes. So, and also I look at this in terms of stories. So, at the core point of something is a commodity. Now, commodity has very little value. Now, because of my background in medical aesthetics and injectables, the analogy I use on this one is Botox. So apologies if you're not in that kind of sector, but I think it makes it easy for everybody to understand. So the commodity in Botox is the raw culture of the bacteria. It's Clostridium botulinum. And, it's what causes botulism. So by definition, as a bacteria, there are lots of them. If you have too many of them, it absolutely ruins your day. But at the core, that's what it is. It has no value. So let's say, for example, you take that bacteria, you culture it, you purify it, you take a particular serotype, and you put a lot of research, development, and understanding into how you can purify that product. Take the type A serotype, stick it in a vial, and put a product on it, label on it. You've got Botox in a very, very simple form. Then that product is then provided to a practitioner, and the practitioner reconstitutes it and provides the service of administering it. So in the laser world, the kind of the product is the laser. The commodity behind it, I guess, Hayley, you'll have to help sort of fill in the gap in that one. Is there the kind of a raw material in the lasers that's kind of common to all of them? Oh, hang on, you're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, so flash lamps, for example.
Flash lamps, there we go, perfect. So the flash lamp is the commodity at the heart of the laser. Then that's taken, has value put to it. Lots of PhDs thinking about how we can make this better and solve problems. And then that laser is then provided to you guys as the for you to provide that service. And that's where a lot of people stop. So that's generally where the sort of client base for aesthetic entrepreneurs comes to us, is they're there. And what they're doing is telling stories purely about the product and the service. What they're not doing is climbing what I call the barrier of apathy and moving up, because to climb this requires an investment of time, energy, and money to learn how to then tell epic stories, so experiences and transformations. So talking about how culture, community, your goals, your plans, sharing stuff about you and how you can help people solve their problems or achieve their goals. Ultimately, those are really, really epic stories, and they're the highest value stories. And the reason they're the highest value is because they're the ones that you can tell. Only you can tell the story about your experience. Only you can tell the story about the impact that you make on someone's life. Everyone else can tell the same story about the product, and they can tell the same story about the service. So these are kind of low value stories. Up here, they're high value stories. Now, this is, again, some of the great things that, Hayley and Lynton have been doing is focusing on the experiences, the higher value stories. Everybody can sell, there's lots of people out there with the same product. There's lots of people out there have the same commodity. But when we get to this end, this is where things really change. It's where pricing becomes far less relevant. It's where you have a better client experience. It's where lots of things change and you make more profit. You make more money because you can set your pricing based on you and your own values rather than the market. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So that's how you start to approach it. And again, looking at what people say, what do I talk about on social media? What message do I put out? The message you put out is how you do this. How do you create an experience that's transformative for another person, an individual? That's an amazingly powerful story. Why do you do this? What's your philosophy? What's your belief system? Those are the things that really engage and inspire people. Just talking about how much you can do a treatment for is really, it's information, but it's not particularly inspiring. So, and then the next thing to take away, again, like I said, you can have access to these slides, as we're happy for you to have them, is looking at your model. Now, at the moment, we can't do treatments. So if you look at the 4 steps in this, gift, entry level, bread and butter, and upsell, what this kind of is, and the stuff we've been working with Hayley, is it's gifts. So, and you can do the same sort of thing. And the gift is your insight, your experience, your honesty, can't read my writing, and education, of course. So, and these are great gifts, because what you're doing is you're sharing your expertise, you're positioning yourself as being a leader. The more you talk about this, the more people will listen, and then they move into what is essentially your entry-level products. They've consumed a lot of this. There might be a book where you've got a video. Think back to when I said about the type of content you create: video, audio, written, and interactive. That's where you can drop into the gifts. So do you have a scorecard? Do you have a video talking about you and your philosophy? What assets have you got to support all of that? And then when someone's consumed enough, generally you need about 7 hours of content for someone to be able to really get an understanding of who you are. Then they'll move into what is your entry-level product or service. Now, a lot of people think that the entry-level product is a treatment. I actually think the entry-level product in your case is a consultation, because it's and you charge for it. And the consultation is the entry point. Once they've had the consultation and you're happy and comfortable that you can work together, then the next step is to move into what I call the bread and butter treatments. So it's what you do the term run of the mill. It's more your core, if you like. It's what pays the bills. What is it you do 80-90% of the time? It's repeatable. It's very effective. It covers your costs. It could be hair removal, something like that. And then after that, once they've been through this, then the next stage is the upsell. So it's something that's a little bit bigger. It's harder to do, but it's more profitable because you've got to charge more money. But what essentially happens is, if you work through this model, is your business's costs are paid by the time it gets to bread and butter, and everything outside of that is profit. And that's how it churns. It's highly unlikely that someone will go straight from a gift into upsell. It's not impossible if you create the package that covers all of these different bases, but more than likely where people's journey with you go is in these sorts of steps. So, where kind of businesses are having success at the moment is they've spent 3 to 6 months working on the gifts. So a lot of this is all digital. So they've got that wealth of content. And then the step then is really straightforward to doing online consultations. If you don't have this in place, the online consultations, they're harder to get, because you've got to pull people. How do you get people actually to take the online consultation? If you see what I mean, you need to have content to draw them towards all of that. And then some bread and butter stuff. People talk an awful lot at the moment about sort of, selling skincare online and that kind of stuff, because it's what can be done. But again, booking people in, those sorts of things can generate some sort of revenue. So those are a couple of models. And then that sort of leads into, the growth model for AE. So as I sort of said to you beforehand, it's, goal, plan, culture, community, the opportunity, and then revenue. Revenue comes at the end, because once you've got all these in place, that essentially just takes care of itself, provided you're charging appropriately, and that's what leads to business growth. So just a couple of sort of final thoughts before we sort of jump into a Q&A is, what you think about is, from here on, is how am I going to create conversations with people? It's essentially marketing. Is how am I going to get people to raise their hands and tell me that they are interested in, in what I've got to offer. So the strategy side of things is just, how do I get people to raise their hands? How am I going to start those conversations with people? And then once you've started the conversation, is how do you build the relationship? So again, things like the online communities are great ways of building relationships. Podcasting, weirdly enough, is a great way of building relationships as well. So you're going to have to be creating the digital assets for that. And then the final step on all of this is you build trust. And at the point of trust is when people purchase. And the higher the price, the longer this takes. If someone's selling something that's 20 quid, you can probably go straight from the conversation to the sell. If you're selling things that are in excess of £500-600, you want to know a little bit more about the person who's doing the treatments and what's the outcomes, etc., etc. And that's where the relationship build comes from. So things to think about. How am I creating a community? We look at things like buyer personas, avatars, get some real insight into who it is, who do you serve. Once you understand who it is you serve, then you can look at the problems that they have and how you can solve those problems. And then all you after that point is literally just adding value. You're just creating that value story I told you about. It's experiences and transformations, how I help these people solve their problems. And, there's a great quote there from Maria about not virtue signaling. Virtue signaling is just, all you're doing is telling about how I solve that problem for this particular person. And I think some of the really high value stories are if you can get your clients to talk on video about how you have solved that problem for them, then essentially they're pre-selling you. And if you get it on video, it's worth its weight in gold. It really is. And the final thing is, be a leader. This is a huge opportunity at this stage now to step up. And you haven't got to lead the whole world. You've just got to lead your little part of it. So you know who your clients are and what problems they've got. And then you just step up and start talking to them about how you can help them solve those problems. Because my final thought, and this is one of the, I can't find anybody who said this before me, so I'm claiming it. But if your clients trust you to solve their problems, then you never need to sell. And that's how I think the whole premise of what we do and how we work is created. It's about teaching you not to sell, but just to position and solve problems, and the rest of it takes care of itself. So, questions. Any thoughts, Hayley?
Yeah, I guess one of the things that I think is once you're sort of over that confidence issue and you've decided that you're going to do this and you start to then put that strategy together, and you mentioned 7 hours of content, do you need that to be on each platform? I mean, how are people going to break this down and get it out there? Is it 7 hours on your Facebook group? Do you just put stuff on Instagram?
So it's a great question. So where that statistic has come from, I didn't make that one up out of interest, is some data that Google did called ZMOT, Zero Moment of Truth. Great. If you're a bit of a nerd and you want to subscribe to this kind of thing, then Think with Google is a really, really good mail shot that they do, which basically shares a lot of insight from them. And the Zero Moment of Truth was looking at how people buy. And in the sort of pre-internet era, people bought in kind of generally the buying process went from kind of a need, then advertising, and then to purchase. And after the purchase, then was sort of feedback. There was no real feedback loop. So you buy something that was rubbish because you didn't really know. You had things like Witch magazine and that kind of stuff, but you didn't really know how to actually understand whether something was relevant or not for you. Then the internet happened and it put a step in. And what Google called it is the zero moment of truth. And it generally comes sort of need, then advertising, and then analysis. And it's where people kind of FBI you. So, and I do it with people. When people join Aesthetic Entrepreneurs, we have a look to see who they are. And this is generally what happens, right? Is I'll find can we join AE? Yeah, no problem. And I'll click on them and I'll try and find something. And I'll go onto their Facebook page and there's a picture of the dog and no reference to the business. So then I'll Google them and I'll find a little bit about the business. Oh, there it is. And then on page 5, under the About Us section, is a picture of them. Now I'm looking for the data. And imagine if clients doing that. So the client buying experience, their zero moment of truth, it won't happen. So what Google looked at was if you had 7 hours of content over 11 touch points on 4 different platforms, what you've got is a wealth of digital information for people to make a really good assessment of who you are and your capabilities. So 11 touch points is, so you could have it on 4 different channels, for example, like, video, you've got a blogging platform or your website, you've got a podcast and a quiz. So those would be 4 different things. The 11 different touch points would be the social media posts, for example, on how you share them. So if you go, a really great way of finding it out is Google yourself and see what pops up. And if page 1 isn't filled with links referencing you, talking about you, what you're doing, then you need to that's what you need to sort of work on and creating that kind of content.
And Maria has just said that she really is looking at the idea of starting podcasting now based on today. We don't do any podcasting at Lynton at the moment. Again, it's another area to, that we could get involved with. But I know that you have this quite interesting concept of the content machine. So you want to just give a bit of an overview of that?
Yeah, sure. So the content machine is a way of repurposing content, because not everybody. So when I started off kind of looking at, how can we help people essentially create that zero moment of truth? I went into it as if everybody had time. Don't have time. So I think, how can we help repurpose content? So the content machine is essentially a way of repurposing it. And I've said everything starts with video, because at the top end of it, if you've done a live video, then you can repurpose that in lots of different ways. So take, for example, you do a Facebook Live to your community. Then you can download that Facebook Live. You can put a little ident on each end, so a little animated logo or something like that. And you can take that and put it on YouTube. So you've got that one piece of content now in 2 places, in Facebook and on YouTube. Then you could take that YouTube video, you can have it transcribed into a blog, go through it, tidy it up a little bit, and make it into a written piece of content. Put it as a blog, and then you can put a little link to the video in the blog. you could then take a couple of snippets, a couple of key lines that you've put in that are really interesting, and put them out on Instagram with a little, or Instagram, but you can put a link in the header, for example, in the bio to the blog or to the video. You can then put it into a mail shot. But also you can do is you can strip the audio out of the video and you can turn it into a podcast. So that one Facebook Live has gone into 6 or 7 different channels. Your zero moment of truth will happen overnight if you do that and you're consistent with it. And for me, it's been hugely effective, because you don't, I think the analogy I'm going to use is, if we're I'm on a roll now, but we're walking in the woods, right? And there's a bear over there. The bear looks at us and says, I'm going to come for you. Bear starts running and chasing. I don't have to outrun the bear. I've just got to outrun you. I wouldn't like my odds on that one. But you don't have to be better than everybody. You've just got to be better than your competition and better than you were. So I think people can get quite overwhelmed and look at it, oh my God, I've got to do all of these things. No, you don't. If you're not doing anything, then you just start with one. Get good at that. Then add another one, and then add another one, then add another one. You don't have to do it all in one go, because the content will still be there. You just repurpose it when you're ready. Done the Facebook Live, right, now I'll do the video. Do that for a little bit. Then you can go back, and then you can take the blog. So, people listening thinking, I've got to do all this sort of stuff. You don't. You've just get into a rhythm of it.
Yeah.
So there's one question I'm gonna point out here is Christina has said, as a consumer, I can get overwhelmed if people are throwing the information from all angles. I'm old school, started watching on Facebook and Instagram, and I'll stick to it. All of the channels for me can overwhelm me, and then I stop watching any of them. That is everyone's experience. So as a media producer, your job is to put it out on the ones where people get the most bang for your buck, for example. So for me, it's Facebook. A lot of my clients are on Facebook. Instagram is growing, so I'm now working more on Instagram. LinkedIn is starting to become a little bit more of a focus, but YouTube is almost irrelevant. I get very little engagement or traffic on YouTube. So I put the videos on there, but I don't really worry about it. The podcast is getting engagement. So you go where the goodies are. And if your clients are on Instagram and Facebook, then do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Rebecca's asked if using case studies of a client with a successful treatment is a good way of doing this, I guess, content creation.
Yeah, I think anything that brings in third-party endorsement is really, really valuable. It's high value stuff. If you go back to the stories I was talking about, transformation and experiences, anything that talks about that has the highest value. And that's really what you want to be getting. Having a bit of a mix. So what I'm not saying is that you exclusively put that sort of content out. You don't talk about products and services. Of course you do. And, the occasional offer, yeah, if that's appropriate, of course you do. But don't just talk about that all the time. People want to hear about you. And client testimonials are hugely valuable, especially on video.
Mm-hmm.
Being just me, it's hard to find time. Is it worth paying someone to manage social media? Great question. Yeah, I think do as much as you can, get as far down the road as you can, and then you can look at bringing people in. Because the thing with social media is there's a lot of people out there who are offering lots of different services, and it's easy to get kind of blinded to it all. If you've got a little bit of an understanding about what it is you want to achieve, it's a strategy for the first thing. If you've got a bit of a marketing strategy, you're going to have to create the content. So you're just outsourcing the distribution part of it. And that's actually the easiest bit to get out there, because if you know who you're targeting, where they're looking, then you can pay someone to literally just put the posts out for you, which is actually the easiest and part of it.
Can I comment at this point? So
yeah,
you can pay for somebody to do the social media for you, but I know I couldn't really pay for somebody outside of Lynton to do Lynton. Nobody knows a product like we do. Nobody knows your services that like you do. My advice would be, Richard's going to go on now and he's going to talk about a service he calls Launchpad. It's very cost effective. right? What I see Richard doing is breaking this down into tiny steps for people, and like saying to them, right, this is the first video you need to create. This is what it needs to say. And I'm giving you an accountability buddy that you work with who's going to pester you until you've done it, right? So Alice, you're busy, you're working 9 to 8, but the content is all in your everyday life. Okay, the content is that person that you've just treated that's had a great result. The content is the check-ins, getting people to check into your business when they come in. The content is the selfies with a gift voucher you've just given to a customer or someone coming in to redeem. The content is fast and easy to produce once you're in the swing of things. The difficult bit is knowing, it's all the fiddly little stuff like, how do I put it on YouTube? How do I get it out there? What do I do my first few videos on? How do I keep engaging with people? Like, that's what I think you need the support. That I can't speak obviously for you. That's what I've needed the support in. Okay, I've needed somebody there to be able to say, right, you have to do this now this week, because all the content stuff, it's there. We've got it. It's in our everyday life, and it becomes then. So it doesn't take that time. It seems so time consuming now to think about filming a video and doing a blog and a podcast. That gets a lot easier. So easy and so fast. You get really quick at doing it. I think if you're looking for some support right now, then having somebody walk you through what are your goals, what's unique about your business, what do you need to say to your audience, how are you going to do the first how are you going to do the first video, what are you going to talk about? Richard straight away within a session, Richard's like, oh well, you need to tell a story about your physicists and you need to talk about your values. I was like, okay, yeah, like obviously, like how do we not know that? But just having someone else, like if you're in your business alone, even with staff, you can feel quite lonely, you can feel quite overwhelmed. Like my advice would just be get a buddy like Richard, because it's quite cost effective. And Richard, tell people what you do and what you offer so that they just know what the options are.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'll pick up some of the questions afterwards. But okay, thanks for that. I will just do the screen share again. So I'll walk you through essentially AE and what we do, and then I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Launchpad and how you can basically take a next step if it's appropriate. So I've got a number of different solutions for things. You may be part of the Aesthetic Entrepreneurs community, the Facebook group. We have the Entrepreneurs Club, which is where I do of my coaching. It's where I kind of do the one-to-one stuff. It's if you want to do this quickly and you want someone basically like me ringing you up, being annoying and sending you text messages going, I didn't see the selfie, that's the one. People, they come into the club, they generally say, I love you now, but I hated you for the first week we were working together, because I make people you either do it or you leave. It's kind of those sorts of things. Launchpad, I'm going to talk to you about in a moment. Skunkworks it's my test bed. I'm an entrepreneur by nature. I like to play around with things and invent stuff. Every now and again, actually not every now and again, most of the time it doesn't work, because that's what you're doing. You're pulling levers and testing things. So if I put a Skunkworks logo on it, it just lets everybody know that it's something that I've kind of invented and it might not work. Our alliance is our group of basically our supplier network, and we're really proud to have Lynton and Hayley as a member of that, where they're companies who share our vision and values, where we work together to for the betterment of the sector. The digital group is where Rick O'Neill is one of our partners, helps you get digitally sorted. So if there's anything around websites, etc., and things like that you need, that's where you can get the support for that. The Platinum program is our slightly higher level business accelerator. It's aimed at businesses that want to kind of transition from being what would be a lifestyle business, so owner operator, maybe 1 or 2 staff, but it's generally a smaller sort of business structure. I want to take that on to being a performance or a bigger business. And the clinical group is where we basically I let people talk about the clinical stuff and do some training and things like that. So I'm going to talk to you about Launchpad. So just a whistle-stop tour through it about what it is, why I created it, how it works, and then also how you can kind of get access to it. So why Launchpad? So Launchpad was something that I created out of necessity. We tested it quite a lot, and there were a lot of challenges around moving people from the aesthetic entrepreneurs into the entrepreneurs club, because at club level it's kind of like quite detailed, and we're quite focused and very driven, and there was a few steps that we needed to go through to help people on the way. And one was to manage that sense of fear and overwhelm around media and around marketing, to make people feel comfortable and confident about communicating about themselves and talking about the number one asset. So I'm just going to ask you now in the chat to tell me what you think the biggest asset in your business is. What is your number one asset? I also, we use that to help people think about their competition, because everybody tends to look over their fence and look at what other people are doing. And at a certain level, yes, that's appropriate if you want to do a SWOT analysis. But what I think you need to be doing is actually focusing on what you do and who you do it for. Keep your eyes in the boat, and then make money. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's okay to have a business that generates a profit. You can't kind of think, I actually kind of quite like that. You know, none of us are in this for a charity. You are able to generate a profit. And for some, that's actually quite a challenge to come over, that how we work with our money. You know, how do we generate money? How do we ask? How do we actually articulate the words to get someone to pay us? Some people find that a challenge. So we work on all of that. And also what happens when you're doing Launchpad is you get some quick wins nice and early that generate revenue, because it's amazing how quickly just a strange change in your mindset and approach suddenly unlocks a few clients who are on the edge of buying from you, and then all of a sudden, bang, they're in. So yeah, so most of you are saying that the asset is you. It is you. It's absolutely you. And again, going back to those high value stories, that's what you should be telling, and we get you comfortable with doing that. So what is it and how does it work? Well, what it is it's a combination of online business modules, a Facebook community, and one-to-many coaching. So what I do is we have an online platform that I'll show you, the Facebook group, and me going in once or twice a week and working with you to uncover some of the problems. So it's very much been a self-starter. So you work through 4 different modules, and if you get stuck or anything like that, then you can kind of lean into the group and work with that community. The great thing is you've got over 100 people who are on the same journey as you. And sometimes, a question gets posted, and by the time I get to it, there are already 20 answers on it, which is kind of great. And we have mentors in there as well to help you work through the sorts of things. So what we do is the first module we start off is fundamentals and foundations. And what that is it's unpacking you as an entrepreneur. So we make you look at yourself, make you look at what your goals are, how you're looking at the plan, and what's that burning desire. So the definition of goal setting that I have is a burning desire followed by immediate massive action, repeated consistently for as long as it takes. So it's a burning desire. If you don't have a burning desire, you don't follow through, you don't have the consistency, and then you feel like a failure when actually the problem is you just had the wrong goal. So we dig into all of that, and we get you starting to get comfortable with sticking a phone in front of your face and talking to it very gently, working through all those sorts of things in the confines of the group, in the safety of the community. Then with module 2, once we understand who you are and what drives you, then module 2, we can start looking outwards, and we can start looking at who your target market is, who your avatar is, who the digital representation of the client that you want to work with. And we push you through a series of exercises to really understand that, not only who they are, but what their vision, what their goals are, what is it they want to achieve, and what are their problems. And then finally, it's like, how can you help solve those problems? And not at a superficial level. The more that you understand about your target client, the more effective you'll be, the more money you make. It's as simple as that. Module 3 is then we look at your treatment and service suite. So we have a really good look at what it is that you've currently got. We can identify any gaps, and essentially we kind of smash it open and put it back together in that module that model I looked at, where we've got gifts, your entry level bread and butter and upsell, and we help you pull that whole process together. And then in module 4, it's the fun part, I think, is the content creation. So what you've done at this point is you've created a real solid foundation and confidence. You've got confidence flooding out of you because you know what you can offer. You really know your value. You know exactly who your target client is and what their problems are. You know that you can solve them, and you know that you're bloody good at solving them as well, which is more to another point. And then you're confident and comfortable at communicating. And again, it's not selling, it's not just, you know, bragging, it's just how I help people achieve their goals. We also have the, you know, the introduction to the suppliers network through Alliance. So the guys that I work with, it's not just me. There's a group of us who work together. As I already mentioned about Rick O'Neill. There's Russell Turner, who does our brand development. These are all A players. Russell created the Hotel Chocolat brand. He's also created all the sort of brand work for aesthetic entrepreneurs. I troll him about the AE logo because we essentially ripped it off from Top Gun. So it's the least amount of work he's ever had to do. We've got Ruth, who works with the content creation and marketing aspect of it. And, you know, we've got support at every level that you want. If there's a problem that you have, we can find it. Networking. So we've got the ongoing support aspect of it with the entrepreneurs, with the Launchpad Facebook group. It's an incredible community. You know, you're starting to experience some of that value with Lynton, the group. It's when like-minded people get together and solve problems. It's incredible. So you've got that support there as well. And you've got a copy of Changing Faces book. So I send you a signed copy of my book. There we go. So this is just a little screenshot of the online platform. This is how it works. So you go through the modules, and each module has a lesson of about 10 minutes. And in there, we have lots of different lessons and different assignments and things like that to do. You jump into the Launchpad group as well, which helps to augment it. And once a week, I go in and I do a kind of group Ask Me Anything session. So it's a kind of a similar thing to this, where I just start once a week. Any questions that you have about any aspect of Launchpad or anything, we just go through it. And it really helps course correct and give you different ideas. So some of the common questions then. If I'm a bit stuck, how do I get help? You reach out. I'm pretty easy to get hold of. So what you don't get in Launchpad is any kind of structured one-to-one time. It's not a kind of coaching program. The coaching program comes with Platinum and Entrepreneurs Club. Launchpad is pretty much one-to-many. But if you get stuck, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to one of the mentors. If you miss any of the Ask Me Anything sessions, they're recorded and they're left on the group, so you can always go back and watch them afterwards. You've got 6 months to complete Launchpad, which is plenty. If you run out of time, you can carry on with a sort of a monthly payment to stay in the group and get access to it. But frankly, if it takes you 6 months to do it, you've not really been paying much attention or getting the most out of it. There's no prizes for finishing first, but most will get through it in about sort of 6 to 8 weeks. At the moment, you can rip through it quite quickly, start implementing some of the lessons from it, and then go back through again, because say you've got 6 months to access it all. Do I have to complete all the assignments? The answer to that is yes, because they build on each other. And if you skip from right to the end, you're going to be missing out on so much value, so many stories that you could tell, so many different things. And you'll find that the community, obviously, kind of, when it comes to the Ask Me Anything sessions, you know, that's where you kind of get an awful lot of value as well. So, you know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, and you got to enjoy the journey as well. What's the Brucey bonus? So I reward bravery. So all the way through this processes, we ask you to share. So if you're sharing a post and you decide that, you know what, that post is going to be, I'm going to do it as a live video. That's a Brucey bonus, because then you'll maybe get free one-to-one. You'll get some value added stuff. You know, you get some sort of bonuses. So if the braver you are, the more you get. And why are you making me do videos, you asshole? That's actually how I generally get asked about it. It's simply this. Everything starts with video. I have, in the 25 years I've been working with digital, the combination of a Facebook group and live video is the fastest way I've ever seen to grow trust and build a business. I've never seen anything like it. So that's what you need to do. I push you hard to do video. Reason is because I want you to win. And I know that the quickest way to do it is to do videos. So, like I said, there's a lot of people get a lot of value from Launchpad. In 12 weeks, we've turned people's businesses upside down and given them real value all through it. So the obvious question then is, well, looking at pricing. So the pricing for Launchpad, including VAT, is 658.80. Now, obviously, the current climate, what I've done is just restructured things a little bit. So there's a £249 enrolment fee, ex VAT, and then it's £50 a month for 6 months. So it's giving you the opportunity to kind of get in at a reduced rate, but I'm not reducing the price. It still has massive amounts of value. And the same kind of advice I give to my clients is don't drop your pricing just because of this. It's restructure. So that's essentially what the investment is. And there's also an affiliate program. So if you think someone else has value from Launchpad, if you put a referral in, then we reward you as well in like cash, or actually you can use it as a higher level discount towards other products and services. So I just want to leave you with some final thoughts before you take a step forward. Is my coaching style was developed in the Royal Navy. That's where I learned to coach. It's direct, it's honest, it has to be. If you've done something fantastic, I'm going to tell you. But equally, if I think something's wrong or not, you could do something better, I'm going to be honest, because I want you to win. And this isn't about collecting certificates. There's no CPD points available for Launchpad, nor will they ever be. It's about turning up and getting value. And the way you do it is you have to lean in and implement what we're talking about. And we will help you with the discipline. You've got to bring the focus, but it's the consistency and the discipline that we'll help you with. But what I can't do is the last bit. And I'm going to pull you outside your comfort zone, but you need to feel that fear, that bolt of adrenaline, feel it, trust that the process works and is effective, and then take the step forward and believe in yourself, because at the other side of this, you're going to have a much, much more efficient business and you'll make more money. It's as simple as that. So that's essentially Launchpad. There are other programs as well. Kerry, I know you're sort of popping. I think we need to have a chat actually, so I can understand a bit more about what it is you're looking to get out of it. And if anybody else wants to have a kind of a call with me, we can sort that out as well. But there we go.
Fantastic.
So, Kira, is there any questions that sort of jumped out about all of any of that? Well, has anyone made?
Yeah, we sort of answered a lot of them as we went through. So
yeah, okay.
Yeah, fantastic, Richard. Thank you so much for spending the time with us today.
That's all right. Sorry we overran a bit.
Everybody stayed on, so. Okay,
that's good to know.
They're interested.
Yeah, good. So, like I said, I think just that Launchpad aside is if you've got any questions for me, get in touch. You can. I'm in the Lynton group, so you can just I might put a post in there just saying if anybody got any questions, you can ask me in there. You can PM me if you want to, yeah, I'm genuinely here to help.
Yeah. As a first step, people can join your Facebook group, can't they? To
yes.
Start to interact more and engage more with you and.
Yeah, I mean, what I'll do is I'll just pop in the chat. I'll just put the web address in there, because that kind of like all things start. I'm sure amount of times I misspelled my own business name. That's a good place to start, because then you can go to link for different places in there. That's the first place to start. Or like I say, just ping me a message.
Super. Well.
Okay.
There's a couple of. Yeah, I've got Kerry. I've got your number, so I can pop you two in touch. So.
Cool, thank you.
And yeah, thanks for everyone's comments. I hope it's been useful, and look forward to doing more webinars and work together in the future, Richard.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks very much for your engagement. Thank you very much, guys. Thanks Hayley, for the invitation. Really enjoyed it. Take care.
Have a good day.
Bye now.
See you later. Bye.
Bye.